devotee and the Lord. Each and every stage of macrocosmic expression, crude, subtle or causal, shines with divine joy. Every atom of the universe is moving in that divine flow, in that rhythmic dance. It is as if this entire universe is the stage for the divine dance of Purushottama. The divine dance with Purushottama as its nucleus is the blissful flow of joyful creation. When Prakriti loses her balance, different evolutionary changes begin. Prakriti and her principles are given different names at different stages of evolutionary change in the flow of creation. At the first stage, when there is no imbalance in the triangle of forces, Prakriti is called Kaushiki Shakti, Shivani Shakti. She is given this name because she is responsible for the creation of the koshas, layers of mind. In that supreme stage, Kaushiki remains unmanifested, remains as the primordial cause of all subsequent manifestations. The second stage of Prakriti occurs when the triangle of forces loses its equilibrium. This is the stage at which Prakriti is the first expressed, as a straight line emerging from one of the vertices of the unbalanced triangle. It is called a Bhairavi, or intermediate stage. At this stage of expression, there is no wave, and hence creation remains beyond the scope of perception. It is only when nada, flow without curvature, is converted into kala, flow with curvature, that creation comes within the scope of perception. When Bhairavi Shakti attains the form of kala, she is called Bhavani Shakti. And thus begins Prakriti's third stage of expression. Bhavani Shakti is active in air, light, vital energy, and numerous other entities, and is responsible for maintaining the coordinating link between the crude and the subtle. In intuitional practice, this process is reversed. Devotees elevate themselves from Bhavani Shakti to Bhairavi Shakti, from Bhairavi Shakti to Kaushiki Shakti, and finally attains oneness with the Supreme Entity. Those who pursue this path of divine adoration are called devotees. Whom do devotees ideate on? Certainly on Purushottama. Those who accept matter as their object of ideation can never attain Purushottama, but will invariably degenerate towards the staticity of Bhavani Shakti. Their entire being will ultimately be converted into inert matter. To ideate on Purushottama means to transform Bhavani into Bhairavi, and Bhairavi into Kaushiki, thereby establishing oneself oneness between the devotee and the Lord. In the process of transforming crude waves into subtler waves, devotees become one with their final goal. If one's movement is towards the crude, one's psychophysical waves will become cruder and cruder. But if one's movement is towards the Supreme, if Bhavani Shakti is transformed into Bhairavi Shakti, then one's wave will gradually straighten. The subtle waves of effulgence will also become straight. Thus a devotee's movement towards the Supreme One is an endeavor to transform crude energy into subtle energy, to transform Bhavani Shakti into Bhairavi Shakti. Both Shraddha, implicit veneration for one's goal, and Virya, stamina, are important. Without regular spiritual practice, this transformation is impossible. For a devotee, action is indispensable. Sadhana itself is a type of action. If one sits idle like a piece of inert matter, sadhana is impossible. The conversion of crude into subtle will never occur. The relationship between devotees and the Lord is strengthened through action. At this point, a question may arise. On the path of sadhana, who is greater, a bhakta devotee or a karmi, person of action? The answer is simple and straightforward. For bhaktas, all actions are a part of their psycho-spiritual practice, whereas for karmis are merely seen as actions. Those people whose actions are indistinguishable from devotion are true devotees. Thus, in the process of conversion of Bhavani Shakti into Bhairavi Shakti, devotion plays a greater role than so-called action. What is the source of inspiration of the individual's effort to convert crude energy into subtle energy? In this case, the cognitive faculty is the source of inspiration. Bhairavi Shakti is prevented from being converted into Bhavani Shakti with the help of the cognitive faculty, and with the help of the cognitive faculty, Bhairavi Shakti is merged into the cognitive flow. In the struggle to transform Bhairavi Shakti into Kaushiki Shakti, Shiti Shakti, cognitive force plays a dominant role, because Bhairavi Shakti is the second stage of Shiti Shakti in the flow of creation. The cognitive force manifests itself as Bhairavi Shakti to expedite the evolution of mind. The will to evolve is primarily dependent on the active role of Bhairavi Shakti. In fact, Bhairavi Shakti is one's real I. It is with her help that one must carry on one's sadhana to attain Shiti Shakti. It is just like worshipping the Ganges with the water of the Ganges. Suppose a certain student studies abroad with his father's financial assistance. If he saves a little money every month and buys his father one of his favorite objects, his father will certainly feel happy. The pursuit of Dharma is a similar process. One attains Paramapurusha with the proper application of devotion, knowledge, and action, which are the faculties he has chosen to bestow on spiritual aspirants. Exactly the reverse occurs in the case of materialists, who are puffed up with vanity. Their Bhairavi Shakti is gradually converted into Bhavani Shakti. Only devotees can expand Bhairavi Shakti, because only they cherish the desire for supreme union with the cognitive faculty. They do not ask the Supreme Being for wealth, opulence, fame, or children, but pray, O Lord, please manifest yourself fully in me. Make me yours, O Lord. They continue to pray like this until they merge in the Supreme. They continue their efforts to attain the Supreme with the physical and psychic strength already bestowed upon them by the Supreme Entity. To ask for extra power without first utilizing the power already given them would be to show disrespect to Paramapurusha. Only after all their power has been totally exhausted may they ask Paramapurusha for anything. If he so desires, Paramapurusha may grant that request through some third entity. While utilizing one's energy, one should pray to Paramapurusha. O Lord, I am working with the strength given by you. Let me not make the mistake of taking it to be my own power. Let me not forget you, O Lord. Devotees will have to strengthen the waves of Bhavani Shakti. The more the waves are straightened, the more Bhavani will be transformed into Bhairavi Shakti. This straightening of the waves is the first stage of sadhana. As long as sadhakas remain within the scope of Bhavani Shakti, they observe that all finite entities of the universe are separate from one another. But when they enter the bonds of Bhairavi Shakti, after straightening the waves of Bhavani Shakti, they discover that all those previous differentiations have vanished into nothingness. The more the influence of Bhavani Shakti, the greater the feeling of differentiation, and the more the influence of Bhairavi Shakti, the greater the influence, the feeling of unity. Many people think that social service alone is the best process of sadhana, but they are mistaken. Through intuitional practice, a sadhaka succeeds in elevating Bhairavi and Bhavani Shaktis in individual life. A person who develops the cognitive faculty in this way would spontaneously do social service. Service is the way and the life of such a spiritual aspirant. A balance between one's individual dharma and social dharma will thus be established. When one's cognitive faculty becomes so subtle that one sees Brahma in all manifested entities, one can play a proper role in the practical world. Only at this stage does one realize that no one on this universe is inferior, for all are the children of the same Supreme Father and Supreme Mother. Brothers and sisters belonging to the same family cannot belong to separate castes, so those who support casteism are atheists. Those who want to perpetuate economic disparities are also atheists. No parent could sincerely desire one of their children to become fabulously rich and roll in opulence, while another slowly starves to death. Human beings should develop themselves as individuals by expanding their dormant cognitive faculties through intentional practice, and should develop their socio-economic life by eradicating the vested interest in the socio-economic sphere. Those who have rendered service to society and have either become government ministers or been otherwise rewarded with power and prestige, but have failed to practice sadhana in their personal lives, generally degenerate later. What happens before Bhavani Shakti is metamorphosed into Bhairavi Shakti. Bhavani Shakti emanates from Purusha in so many waves. It is the variation in these waves which causes the differences among the many objects of the universe. Bhavani, Bhairavi, and Kaushiki Shaktis are created according to the way the three principles act in the cognitive faculty. When majority changes occur in Bhavani Shakti, either air, fire, water, and other crude objects can be perceived. These entities acquire different forms due to the differences in the waves created by the three principles. Thus we observe the same Purusha manifested in different ways. It is due to a particular vibration of Bhavani Shakti that we perceive Purusha as a piece of iron, and due to another vibration that we perceive Purusha as a piece of gold. Had there been no differences among the wavelengths of Bhavani Shakti, there would have been no differences among the manifested objects. When spiritual aspirants remain within the periphery of Bhavani Shakti and observe the differences among objects, they realize the supreme singularity behind the diversity of expression. All objects are the varying forms of Purusha. When one realizes that all these diverse objects finally merge into supreme singularity, social service becomes more important than anything else. Because service to individuals or the collectivity means service to Brahma. So in the first stage of sadhana, as a result of the consonant superimposition of cosmic ideation, Bhavani Shakti is changed into Bhairavi Shakti, then all the objects of the world are seen as expressions of Brahma. This realization is not brought about by the study of books. Book knowledge is only perceptual knowledge. It cannot take one beyond the boundary of perception. If people study constantly, without practicing sadhana, psychophysical parallelism will make them vain and egotistical. Mati vachatvaro vedan sarva shastrani shaivahi saram tu yogibi pitam takram pivanti pandita. When the Vedas and all the scriptures are churned, the essence of all knowledge is assimilated by the yogis, and the non-essential portion is eaten by the pandits. The constant churning of the ocean of knowledge produces butter and buttermilk. The spiritual aspirants eat the butter, the pandits remain satisfied with the buttermilk. The goal of a sadhaka is not to become a bookworm, but to become a devotee. Remember that until one becomes one with the cognitive faculty, one will have to continue to act. Through karma sadhana, the yoga of action, one advances to the stage of progress, realizing that everything is Brahma. The outlook of differentiation is a defective outlook. In the third stage, the question of differentiation does not even arise. The difference between the seer and the seeable is completely obliterated. The doer, the deed, and the witnessing entity merge in the same consciousness. All that remains is one undifferentiated supreme entity.